Hello and welcome to the Futures Lab. So, this week we're going to figure out a way to make our lightsabers turn on and off, which means we need to figure out a way to change the length of the blade so that it shrinks down and back into the hilt. While we're doing this, we're also going to figure out a way to add some sound effects to our lightsabers. So without any further ado, let's head to the code. So this is the code that we have so far. This up here controls the movement of the lightsaber from left to right, and then everything after erase all controls the actual drawing of the lightsaber blade. Now we know how long the lightsaber blade is. It's 300 pixels. We move up here 300 pixels to draw the colored part of the blade, and then we draw the white part of the blade moving backwards 300 steps. So if we want to change the length of the lightsaber, we're going to need to change these numbers here. Now to do that, we're going to need to use a variable. Let's go to the orange category on the left, variables, and then click on this make a variable button here. Now we need to give this variable a name. We're going to call this variable length. And this variable is going to control how long the lightsaber blade is. Press the blue button OK. Then you'll notice that this has appeared here. This is our length variable. Now a variable is like a magical box. It can only contain one thing at a time. And if you try and put something else into the box, whatever was in it before gets deleted and replaced. Now what's inside the variable could be letters, maybe words or even sentences, or a number. Currently, our length variable contains the number 0. So we're going to make our move code here refer to the length variable. So get this length variable up here and drag that down until it goes into move 300 steps. Now we need to move backwards the length variable, so we're going to need to go to operators first and get out the second operator, which should be a minus operator. Now get this minus operator and put it into move 300 steps, then get out another length variable and put it in the second socket of our minus operator. Now you'll notice that your blade has become very, very short because the length is set to 0. So we're going to make some code that turns the lightsaber on and off. I'm just going to zoom out now and we're going to put some new code right here. So go to events, the yellow category, and get out a when space key pressed. Then we're going to go to variables and get out a set length. Let's try setting the length to 100 to see if that works. Now, make sure that you've clicked the green flag and then press the space bar. Now, do we remember how long the lightsaber is meant to be? 300. So let's make that change now and then press the space bar. There we go. Now it's looking like it was before. Now what we need to do is figure out a way so that when we press the space bar, it changes between 300 and 0. So go to Control, the orange category, and look for an if, then, else. Drag that out and put it so that the if, then goes right underneath when space key pressed, then let go. Now what we're going to do is check the length variable before we run any of our code. Now an if, then, else allows us to ask a question, and depending if the answer to that question is yes or no, we can do one thing or do a different thing. The question that we're going to ask is the length of our lightsaber 0? So we need to go to operators and look down here until we find an equals operator. Drag that out and you'll notice it's this 6-sided hexagon shape. And there's this 6-sided hexagon shaped hole in between the if and the then. So drop it inside, go to variables and get out your length variable. Put that in the first half of the equals operator. And the question that we're asking is the length of our lightsaber 0? So click on this 50 and change it to 0. So this code here only runs if length equals 0 is true. If length equals 0 is not true, which you'll notice it's currently not true, the length is currently 300, it's instead going to run whatever code we put here. So let's copy this set length to 300, put it underneath the else, and set length to 0. Let's see if that works, shall we? Hit the space bar. Excellent, this is great. Now we have this on-off ability for our lightsaber. And you'll notice we're changing the number that's inside our length variable each time we press the spacebar. So currently the lightsaber is either all the way on or all the way off. There's no in between. The length is either 300 or it's 0. Let's see what happens if we change that number more gradually. We might get this cool extension of the blade and then retraction of the blade. So first, take this set length 300 and drag it out by itself. Let's go to Control and get out a repeat 10. Drag that and put it underneath the if then. Then let's go to Variables and get out a change length, not set length, change length. Put that inside the repeat. So let's see what happens if we change this repeat 10 into repeat 300. And we're going to change the length by 1, which will take the number that's already inside length and add 1 to it. All right, hit the space bar and let's see what it does. Okay, that's pretty cool, but it's also really slow. So let's make that happen a bit faster, shall we? Let's try repeat 20 instead of 300, but we'll change the length by more than 1. In fact, we'll change it by 15. Now, if you know your maths, 20 times 15 equals 300, so that will take us to our 300 length. Okay, let's press the space bar to shrink it down, and then let's see what it looks like this time. Okay, that looks a lot better. So you can change these numbers if you want the blade to extend slower or faster. Make sure you do the maths so that this number multiplied by this number equals 300, if 300 is how long you want your lightsaber to be. Now, to make the blade do the reverse and slowly shrink down, all we need to do is get rid of this set length to 0. Put that aside for now. Then right click on our repeat, normal click on duplicate, put this underneath else, and then put a minus in front of whatever number this is. So 15 is going to become minus 15. All right, let's see what that does. Oh, that looks great. That's fantastic. And you can even see the length variable slowly going up and down as the number changes. Now, we do have a little problem, don't we? We've got this very short little tiny lightsaber ball just hovering here. So I'm going to adjust my code to make sure that we don't see this when the lightsaber is off. Now, in order to do that, we need to have a look at our other code, and we need to look at the code that draws the lightsaber blade. Now remember, these 3 blue blocks are what move our lightsaber handle from left to right, but everything underneath them is what makes our lightsaber blade. So we can put an if around our lightsaber blade drawing code and make it not run if the lightsaber length is 0. So in order to do that, we need to go to Control and get out an if then. Drag this if then and put it right above erase all. Now we need to put a question in between this if and then. If the answer to the question is true, then all this code will run. Otherwise, it will not run that code. So we want this code to run only if the lightsaber length number is more than 0. So let's go to Operators and look for this operator here. It's 6 down from the top, and it's an arrow. It's a space, then an arrow, and then a 50. We want the arrow that's pointing towards the 50. This means more than. So now we need to go to Variables, get out our length variable, put it into the first socket, then change this 50 into a 0. Now if we drag all of this code back into the if then, so now all of this code here is only going to run if the lightsaber blade is more than 0. But we have a problem. Move the lightsaber from left to right and you'll notice we're still leaving some drawing behind, which is very strange. But this actually makes sense because the pen is currently down, so we are drawing and we are not erasing anything anymore. So what we need to do is get this erase all and make sure it happens all the time, not just if the length is more than 0. So to do that, grab this pen down, drag all the code off to the side, then get this erase all and move it up outside of our if so that it happens always. And you'll notice the drawing has disappeared. Then let's get all this code and put it back inside our if length more than 0. Okay, now let's see what this looks like. Maximum screen. Awesome. As you can see, the blade completely disappears. We don't have that tiny little nubbin of a lightsaber blade anymore. Now the next thing I want to do is actually change the costume of this lightsaber, depending on whether or not the blade is on or off. So go up to the top left corner and click here on Costumes. Now our sprite lightsaber can actually have multiple costumes, and this is really useful if you want your sprites to change the way that they look. Maybe because they're animated, you can make their legs look like they're running, or maybe they've changed from one form to another. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this costume here. So right click on your costume 1, then normal click on duplicate. I put this little red on off button on my lightsaber. I'm going to click on this one here, and I'm going to change the fill. I'm going to set it to no shader, this one here, and I'm going to make it a very dark red to look like the light has gone out. Now, if you click on the two different costumes, you'll notice that it looks like the light is on in one of them. This is a really small thing, but I really quite like it. I think it's a nice little touch. Now, we need to make sure that we name our costumes so that we know which one is which. So click on costume 1, click here where it says costume 1, delete this text, and we're going to just call this on. Then click on your costume 2, click here where it says costume 2, delete the text and call it off. So now you should have two costumes, one called on and the other called off. Let's head back to the code and switch between these costumes. Now have a look for your when space key pressed code, then go to looks, the purple category on the left, look for switch costume to off and drag that underneath else. Then drag another switch costume off underneath the if then. But with this one here, click on where it says off and change it to on. Now let's full screen this and see if we can see the little red light turning off and on. Excellent. So now that we've got code that changes the length of our lightsaber and changes the costume of our lightsaber handle, we should make sure that we have a default state when we start the project that we want them to always begin at. So look for your when green flag clicked forever, and then we want to get out a set length to 0, put it right underneath the green flag, but before the forever, and then we want to switch the costume to off. That way, when you start the project like this, your lightsaber starts off and you can turn it on. Now I don't need this set length to 300, so I'm just going to throw that out. And seeing as we've got plenty of time still, let's add in some cool sound effects to our lightsaber. Now Scratch has its own sound effects, but none of them sound like a lightsaber, so I've downloaded some lightsaber sound effects from the internet, and I'm going to show you how you can get those same sound effects from my project. So I've put the link to my Scratch lightsaber project in the description of this YouTube video. So click on that now, then make sure that you're logged in under your Scratch account. Now you need to go to Sounds here, make sure that you've selected the lightsaber, and you'll notice there are 3 different sounds. There's stop, start, and hum. Now you can have a listen to these sounds by just selecting them on the left and then clicking this blue button here. And once you've done that, it's time to get these sounds out of my project and into your project. Now there are 2 different ways you can do this, and you can choose whichever you prefer. You can right click on the sounds, click on export, and then that will download them to your computer, or you can put them into your Scratch backpack. Click here at the bottom of the screen where it says backpack, then drag the sounds one by one into the backpack window. Okay, I've got all 3 of them here, so head back to your project. Click into sounds in the top left corner. You might have this one pop sound, but we don't need that, so we can delete that. Now, if you downloaded those lightsaber sounds to your computer, just hover here and then move up until you find upload sound. Click on that. Then click on Downloads, then click on one of the sounds you downloaded and press Open. And if the sounds are in your backpack, then just click on Backpack on the bottom here, and you can just drag the sounds from your backpack into the left side here. Now remember, make sure you've got the 3 sounds: stop, hum, and start. Now let's head back to the code. Now first, let's get the hum working. So go to Events, and we need another when green flag clicked. Let's get out a forever loop and put that underneath it. Then let's go to Sound on the left and get out a play sound hum until done. Now once we put this inside the forever, what this will do is it will play the sound, wait for it to finish, and then start playing it again. Don't get out a start sound hum and put it in here, otherwise it will sound awful, trust me. So then get this play sound hum until done and start your project. Okay. Now the problem is that the hum is always on, even if the lightsaber is not on. So we need a way to fade in that sound and fade it out. So right click on when green flag clicked, duplicate this whole thing, then get rid of this play sound, and we're going to get out a set volume to 100%. Now what we can do is change the volume according to the length of the lightsaber, which means we want the volume to be at 100% when the length of the lightsaber is at 300. Now 300 divided by 100 is 3. So if we set the volume to whatever the length is divided by 3, let's see if that works. So go to Operators and get out a divide by operator. It's number 4 in the list. Then go to Variables and get out your length variable. And we want to divide our length by 3. Okay, let's start our project. That's fantastic. Now just as a test, with your lightsaber still on, hit stop and then hit go. And listen carefully. Did you hear that there's a brief second where it starts playing the hum until it figures out, oh wait a minute, I meant to turn the volume down? It's a small glitch, but we can fix it. We need to make sure that this code pauses for just a split second before it starts playing the sound to make sure that the volume has been adjusted correctly. So to do that, we're going to go to Control and get out this wait 1 seconds and put that right here. Now believe it or not, 1 second is actually too long. We don't need that long. Let's change this into 0.1. Just a tiny fraction, 1/10 of a second. Should be enough time. Okay, so next let's make the start and stop sounds play themselves. Let's look for our when space key pressed code. Let's go to Sound on the left, and we're going to get out a start sound start and a start sound stop. Now get your start sound start and put it here, and your start sound stop and put it right underneath the else. Now if we used a play sound until done here, it would first play the whole sound, then it would switch the costume, and then it would change the length of the lightsaber, which would make this really annoying pause. But by using start sound, it begins the sound and the rest of the code continues to work while the sound is still playing. Okay, let's see what this sounds like, shall we? I can hear the sounds, but we have a bit of a problem. This changing the volume of the sounds is also affecting the start sound and the stop sound. Now in Scratch, each individual sprite maintains its own volume. So because we're changing the volume here, we could just make a new sprite just to hold the start sound and the stop sound, but that seems a little unnecessary. Let's put the start sound and the stop sound into our stage, which contains our starry backdrop. To do that, go to Sounds up in the top left corner, then drag the stop sound across to the stage and let go. Then do the same for the start sound. Now let's head back to the code. So we need to remove these here. So I'm just going to grab the switch costume, move it up, and then I'll be able to get the start sound off of the bottom. Let's do the same there. And we don't need these, we can throw them out. But now we need a way for this code to send a message to our stage to tell it to play the start sound or the stop sound. To do that, we're going to need to use a broadcast. Go to Events and look for Broadcast Message 1. Click on Message 1, then click on New Message. And we're going to call this message Lightsaber On. Once you've typed that, press OK. And we need to create a new broadcast here. Drag out this message 1. And we're going to click on New Message again and call this one Lightsaber Off. Now these broadcasts are messages that go out, and if we put some code into our stage that tells it what to do when the message is sent out, then we can get it to play the sounds in response. So click on the stage here, get out when I receive lightsaber off, when I receive lightsaber on, then get out a play sound start until done, put it underneath our lightsaber off, and play sound stop until done, and put it under when I receive lightsaber off. It shouldn't actually matter whether you use a start sound or a play sound until done. Okay, moment of truth. Are we ready? Let's start the project, and then... Perfect. Love that sound. And that's all the time we have this week. I hope you had fun making a lightsaber that's uniquely yours, and maybe learn something new along the way. Subscribe and ring the bell to see what other tutorials come out on this channel. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to do next in this project or one of my other projects. Let me know if you need any help with your code or if you run into any problems. But aside from that, stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.